the staff. This is Kristen Turner, as I mentioned before. I just wanted to give you guys a couple quick updates before we get into some of your questions. Congresswoman condemned the Department of Education's actions on rescinding some of the Title IX protections, saying specifically that, it'll put more people in danger, disproportionately women. Some of what she actually said, her words are, few survivors will report their assault to authorities for fear of retribution, social ostracization, or doubt that anyone will believe them. We need to change the conversation around sexual assault and make the safety of our students our number one priority. Just wanted to share that with you. I have a couple more I'll get through. She also commented on the North Korea situation. Just wanted to share the statement because I thought it was poignant. She said specifically, trading barbs and personal attacks with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un has put the United States in a worse position today than we have been since the Korean War. If we are to de-escalate the situation and ultimately denuclearize the Korean Peninsula, we must pursue serious and direct diplomatic engagement. We need to break our addiction to regime change wars and chart a new path towards peace. Some of the things, I know you guys usually ask, what is Congresswoman Gabbard working on? What has she done this week since we last saw you? So I just wanted to highlight a couple of the things that have come forward and she's been able to work on. Congresswoman Gabbard, along with the Hawaii Congressional Delegation, we're very happy to announce this week that the Economic Development Administration will award $1.6 million to Ma'o Organic Farms in Waianae. This will fund the construction of a new building to house the agricultural produce processing and farmer training facility. The new facility is expected to create 200 jobs in Hawaii. Rep Gabbard, some of her direct comments were, food security is one of the greatest challenges facing Hawaii, as our state still imports more than 85% of its food, while also facing an aging farming population. So, additionally, some of the other actions Congresswoman Gabbard has taken this week is she is a co-sponsor of the Drinking Water Infrastructure for Job Creation Act, and she also co-sponsored the Transportation Infrastructure for Job Creation Act. These are both led by Maxine Waters. Questions from last week. I know we had talked about a couple of things that you guys wanted an answer on. So, in relation to the climate change conference happening in Bonn, Germany, the Congresswoman will not attend. The House is in session during that week. So, she is focusing on advancing the OFF Act, which is the Off Fossil Fuels Act, which is a clean energy bill that Kirsten can talk more about if you guys have any questions. But this is a bill that has received massive support from environmental groups. As I mentioned before, we're at over 300 groups that have endorsed the bill, including many local chapters as well as national chapters across. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on that.
Just to let you know that we're reaching out to everybody and anybody on this bill to get traction, both in the community as well. So making sure that the private sector as well as the public sector are all aware of the bill and trying to garner support.
Great.
Where can we go to find information on that bill?
So both of those, for the OFF Act, I have the language. I think I have a copy of the language here, but the full release that I gave you guys a few weeks ago is on the Congresswoman's website. So you can read all about it on gabbard.house.gov if you'd like to. She's also posted things on her Facebook and social media outlets if you'd like to take a look there.
It's HR 3671.
Okay.
One of the other things that I know you all asked about I don't know if it was last week or the week before, was the effort on the Senate side to establish a commission to look into what was happening with the 2016 elections.
Yes.
So I did take a look. As of now, there's not a companion effort in the House on that side, but the Congresswoman is a co-sponsor. She co-sponsored earlier this year the Protecting Our Democracy Act, which, just to give you the summary of the bill and kind of what it does, it says this bill establishes in the legislative branch the National Commission on Foreign Interference in the 2016 election to examine any attempts or activities by the Russian government or other governments, persons, or entities associated with such governments or persons or entities within Russia to use electronic means to influence, interfere with, or sow distrust in elections for public office held in the United States. So she is a co-sponsor of establishing this commission on the House side, so it's very similar. So I just wanted to highlight that for you. With that, that's all I have.
How's
You guys
that
have
bill
questions?
doing? She said she's a co-sponsor. How's that bill?
She is a co-sponsor. I'm not exactly sure. It was actually introduced by Representative Swalwell. I haven't heard that it is coming to the floor for a vote.
Will it come to the floor, or is it being blocked from coming to the floor by the
I don't know right now. Yeah, I might have to look. Yeah, as far as where the bill's at. I know that they're still working to gain co-sponsors, and Representative Swalwell is still pushing, as well as the Congresswoman, to advocate for it. So
Is there any bipartisan support?
Exactly.
it's all Democrats on the bill right
All
now.
Democrats. It probably won't go anywhere.
Any other questions?
So the victory du jour, temporary as may be, is healthcare,
Right.
right? It's now gonna go into, it's never gonna die, it's now gonna go into bipartisan discussions. Any thoughts, positioning on her side? Paths forward?
So, I mean, as you mentioned, the Senate has announced that they will not take a vote on the latest Graham-Cassidy bill. As far as thoughts forward or ways forward, I mean, as of now, what we're hearing, they will attempt to revive this later down the road, but the Republicans are pivoting towards tax reform at this point. Looking at it, like I said, I can share with you her latest comments on the Graham-Cassidy bill if you'd like to hear them. So on this side, Rep Gabbard has said, we need real healthcare reform that brings costs down, increases access to quality care, and ensures basic health services to all Americans. The bill that the Senate is considering, or was considering, does none of those things. Instead, it throws an estimated 32 million people off their current plans. Veterans and people living on low income or with disabilities who rely on Medicaid would see their services drastically cut or eliminated. Maternity care, substance abuse treatment, and mental health services would all be slashed, and seniors and those with pre-existing conditions charged far more. Healthcare should not be rationed. Other industrialized countries have systems that provide universal care at the lowest cost per capita. I am working towards a Medicare for All system that will provide universal health care to all Americans, but before that work can resume, we must stop this bill before it inflicts any damage on the essential healthcare services we need to protect. So, as you all know, the bill stopped. So the Congresswoman is going to continue to advocate for the Medicare for All bill and that approach in Congress. I know all of your voices and your stories are helping in that fight. So.
Actually, I think they won.
Yeah.
I think it's because of us and
Yeah.
people like us around the country that bill didn't make it 3 times. That is the voice of citizen participation in democracy.
So at the state level, Mizuno is organizing a rally, a march around the concept of healthcare as a civil right as opposed to a privilege. And that's going to be held November 17th at 5:30. He's going to organize the microphones and the setup at the Capitol. And we're hoping that all our members of Congress will participate. That's one reason we tried to pick the Friday before Thanksgiving recess on the idea that everybody be back. And so if Tulsi's available, we would invite her to participate, and we told Mizuno we would be here on Tuesday and we'd mention it, and I'm sure his office could get in touch with your office about details.
Yeah.
So that's 5:30 to 6:30 a march he's envisioning, and then after that he wants to get the chamber and have a public discussion on healthcare. He hasn't decided yet, or his team hasn't decided yet, whether it's Medicare for all or Medicaid for all or single payer or whatever. It's the beginning of that process. So not only filling gaps that the feds don't fill, but letting Hawaii go beyond, because we've always been a leader in healthcare. And so we're not necessarily constrained by what the feds do or don't decide to do, But it would probably be a good idea if all of our Congress people and legislators could at least get together and have a common vision of where we want this to go for Hawaii.
So is the invitation going out to all the religious leaders as well?
I don't know.
As you mentioned that, is the Interfaith Council getting notified? Or?
I think he's at the beginning of touching base with grassroots.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to be sure that you had this save the date on your calendar or her calendar if she's in town that day. And that's one reason we picked that date is specifically for MOCs. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll note it and forward it on to our schedulers for the Congresswoman. As always, please send any information, email
Yes.
over any hard copy invitation. This allows us to kind of put all this stuff
Okay.
as a placeholder.
Healthcare and environment is one of the places where we should be in the prow of the boat. And in the interim, Maya, you had a
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that they've announced that the website for signing up for ACA plans during open enrollment will be down for quote unquote maintenance for 12 hours every Sunday but one during the open enrollment period, which is a not very well concealed effort to sabotage it. And I think that while we may not win every battle, that to me is something that some pushback may cause them to back down on. So I would encourage the Congresswoman to not only speak out but also to rally other voices to say this is outrageous. That is the day when the majority of the country is not working and might be sitting at their computer to sign up for a healthcare plan that could potentially
Can you
save
give
their
me
life.
the day again? I'm sorry, I didn't get to. Which day? Of
There
the
is
open
Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
they've
the
announced
This is only
clear-cut
during the
intentional
open
sabotage.
during the open
Yeah.
enrollment period,
Every Sunday.
every Sunday but one.
Yes, you would think Secretary Price might want to be asked for some testimony on that
Exactly.
in open session.
Yeah. Good idea.
As long as he didn't have to take a jet to the Capitol.
Oh, it's really far. I know it's a helicopter.
Private jet from Washington DC to go down there.
Louboutins.
And did anyone else want to talk about healthcare? Because otherwise we could talk about.
Can you
Puerto
just send
Rico
me
as well.
the notice on that so I have the reference?
It's in the news.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
missed it.
I mean,
Thank you.
Powell's left. Actually, I think she has to go somewhere. But the Kaiser Family Foundation had had a news release. But actually, I think if you just literally Google it, you can find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe a notice one.
No, I mean I saw it in various places on the news and on social media, but it's definitely not hard to find. It was a public announcement several days ago.
Thank you for the email.
Yeah.
You don't always catch everything.
One can't nowadays, yeah.
And you wanted to talk about
Puerto Rico?
So Puerto Rico, I mean, I
Yeah,
think it's on
go
all of
for
our
it.
agenda. So, 3.5 million people on an island not dissimilar from ours, facing, lack of medicine, lack of clean water, lack of communication, lack of basic medical care, running out of food. So this isn't a time to be dithering around. This is a time for money to be committed and to try to facilitate as much as possible, streamlining the process to bring aid and then disperse it around the island. And that, from what I understand, is a huge challenge in terms of roads being blocked, lack of power, et cetera, infrastructural issues.
Right.
But two big issues that Puerto Rico is asking for is, number one, let's hurry up, we need aid. And we need it to be delivered in the most streamlined way possible, which would potentially include waiving the Jones Act requirement for ships to dock on the mainland before transferring the cargo to a U.S. flagged ship to transport it to Puerto Rico, if you think about the time that would require. And then, of course, there's the question of debt relief for Puerto Rico, which was already in economic direst of circumstances before this, multi-billion-dollar tragedy hit. So let's remember those are U.S. citizens, and they deserve every bit as much concrete action as anyone on the U.S. mainland who suffered a natural disaster.
Yeah, and as an island community ourselves, it's beholden on us to take leadership position, because I think we understand in a way that other people might not how isolated you can be and what that means.
I mean, as you said 85% of our food is imported, right? So I don't know what percentage is imported to Puerto Rico, but I'm sure it's substantial.
And their
so
farms
those-
really got nailed.
Yeah,
Their food production capacity is
probably near
awful.
zero, yeah.
Yep.
He was directly and personally involved in Texas, and he's acting like Puerto Rico doesn't exist at all.
Yep.
So,
Trump is going tomorrow. No, today he's going to go visit.
Yeah,
I'm
now that
lucky
he,
I'm
now
there.
that it was in the news about how
Oh.
he was ignoring it,
Yeah.
he said he's going there, but he did
So he
ignore
said
it.
next week. I thought they.
No, it's just kind of it brings it on for him to go, but supposedly he's
Well, it
going.
helps him to advertise baseball hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd much rather he sent a warship to supply power or water.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
we
He
agree
said he
with that.
was, I heard on the news that he is sending military.
Okay.
So,
And that's what the
Yeah, but it
governor
shouldn't
had
be too
requested,
little, too late. It
specific
needs to be
military help
adequate.
and specific.
Yeah, power and water. So yeah, in anything that Representative Gabbard can do, you know, to help lead here,
Yes.
you know, is appropriate and appreciated.
Right, right. And then just so you know, the Congresswoman is continuing to work very hard to mobilize support for Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Let's not forget they're
Right,
also
right. And
very
the biggest
effective
issues
there.
they have right now are the kinds of issues that she's very concerned about: water, power, you know, sustainable food. All those kinds of issues that are very much within her sights are the issues now
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
need
she's
to be.
right on with you.
Yeah.
and then that just, that also leaves Russia still on the table, and all the diversionary tactics that he uses whenever anything gets too close to home, including NFL or whatever. So Russia remains a center of focus, continues to be, just that it doesn't drop off the edge of the table.
And then I'd like to bring up North Korea. These guys have heard this. I'll try and keep it short. We have a president who's pushing us closer and closer to a potential nuclear confrontation. North Korea's announced that they're going to explode a hydrogen bomb over the Pacific, a test which could go awry. And my point to the other members of Congress is that it is not okay to simply say, we are not in charge of Congress. Because if something happens, who's responsible? We are allowing an insane man to have control over the button. So I don't have an answer. I guess we're looking to you and to our members of Congress to say, what can you do? Where are the people meeting behind the scenes to cause something preventative to happen? Because if something does happen,
it's too late.
it's too late.
Yeah, and as I highlighted in the beginning, this is a topic that's very much in the crosshairs of the Congresswoman's focus. She's.
So what is she doing specifically?
Like as I mentioned, she's continuing to, push for and have discussions and talk for it and push the idea of diplomacy and direct diplomatic engagement with North Korea.
So is there an effort to fund the State Department's diplomatic efforts? Because apparently it doesn't exist. I've seen a number of people on TV saying that the State Department simply has zero diplomatic effort going on. So all they've got are the generals out there. There is no diplomacy underway right now. Zero. So could she maybe present a bill to say, let's get this funded and, I don't know.
Yes, as you guys know, and I know we've talked about this recently, the funding bills have, for Congress have been passed already for this year. As far as putting together a bill, I can absolutely pass that along to look at the next fiscal year.
That
and
might be
pushing
too
that.
late.
Again, this is why I'm not necessarily sure. I'm just in response to your request. I can always pass that along, but I'm not sure that's the solution. As the only thing I can assure you right now is that the Congresswoman shares your concern. She's also worried about this, and she's continuing to push for these same things that you're calling for. As far as solutions or specific actions that we can take, I don't have a lot of answers to give you right now. So
The good thing to be reassured with is that the continuing resolutions are funding it at the same level as the prior administration.
The State
So-
Department.
Yes,
Yes.
so they
That's good.
have not had their budgets slashed. How the administration is executing the policy within that
Correct.
is what you're talking about, but in terms of funding, it's there.
So then why don't they bring Rex Tillerson in and call a hearing? and ask him what he's doing on the diplomatic side. The man is not doing his job.
Well, there have been hearings, but I'm not working on the.
I know,
so
I'm
I'll
just
ask you
saying,
that.
how can she be proactive to cause something to happen? If there is no diplomatic activity going on, then we need our members of Congress, every single one of them, to be proactive, to make it happen.
Which opens the point for it is an excellent place for bipartisanship,
Exactly,
for coalition building,
exactly.
because I could be wrong, but I doubt that there are that many Republican members of Congress who would welcome a nuclear war. So perhaps, I mean, as a member of the military, I should think
Exactly.
Representative Gabbard is particularly well placed
Exactly.
to use her voice and her growing stature to reach across the aisle very purposefully. For it would be very impressive were the
Exactly.
Congress to pass a resolution reminding the president that he needs to be more cautious with his words.
Or for the House Foreign Affairs Committee to call Mr. Tillerson to testify
Exactly.
as to why there's no diplomatic effort ongoing.
We
Can
would
I raise a,
appreciate Representative Gabbard taking an active role in that. As I've said before, it's very nice that she comes out with statements, but I always wonder what's happening
Exactly.
after the statement is issued. What's actually happening?
A lot of that cross-aisle communication that goes on isn't put out in a press release on
Fine.
purpose, because
Fine.
that's the way you build trust and support. So it's very difficult for her to be able to build those trusts and then put out a statement constantly.
That's fine. We're not interested particularly in statements, I think. We're much more interested in actual action.
and can I raise a question, and maybe this is a minor point. Congress today, the House voted today to provide $12 million basically for propaganda into North Korea, and it passed 430 to 0. But our congressperson didn't vote on it. At least that's what's reported. It's just a question, you know, I don't know.
What is the question, sorry?
Why didn't she vote? There were no nay votes, but she did not vote. She, and you know, maybe she had a meeting, whatever. It obviously didn't need her vote to pass, and it seems a silly resolution to spend $12 million for propaganda to North Korea. But I was just curious on this massively bipartisan area that she did not register a vote for nay or yay.
The congresswoman was delayed. She was on a flight, but the flight was delayed. So she was not gonna make
That was a
it.
lot.
Yeah.
Was she voted for it?
You know what? I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd
Because
have
she
to
voted
look
this
about that.
afternoon on something else,
Yeah.
right? And then this is one of the first votes she's missed. She's very reliable.
She's very, yeah. This was,
Okay.
circumstances beyond her control. Flight delay, yeah.
Good.
So.
Good explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, again, as you guys mentioned, we'll pass along all of your concerns. Oh, bye.
Okay.
Yeah, have it zip up.
All right.
So
Thank you for the.
Oh,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, Hawaii J20
Oh, sure, yeah.
is putting on a free screening Thursday of the documentary City of Ghost. It's about the citizen journalist group Rock is Being Silently Slaughtered. Doors open at 5:30, so there you go.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
It'll be a good one to attend.